a disaster now, but they were a disaster before he got there. So can you really put that entirely on LeBron? I mean, I don't know. I just think there's no connection with this team.
God, no.
As it's currently
You can
assembled.
even tell optically, like it's. You go to a party and there's 30 couples, and you can tell the flirty couple. You're like, isn't that amazing? They've been together 15 years and they're still touchy, and then you see the couple, they're on their phones, and you're like, that's not going to end well. Like, optics matter.
No, body language matters. It's.
This team's last in the league in optics.
In body
they
language.
are dead last in optics.
It's just not a good look. Finally, the Antonio Brown saga seems to be coming to an end this week. The Raiders have been mentioned as a likely landing spot, partly because they have 3 first-round picks, and also because they need a downfield playmaker. And John Gruden appears to be really fond of Antonio Brown. Let's take a listen.
Oh, boy.
What's the greatest thing about this man is I've told all our receivers, if you get a chance to watch him practice, you'll see what unlocks the greatness in him. He's the hardest working man, I think, in football. Hardest working player I've ever seen practice. And I've seen Jerry Rice, I've seen a lot of good ones. But I put Antonio Brown at the top. And if there's any young wideouts out there, I'd go watch him practice, and you figure out yourself why he's such a good player.
You know, Antonio Brown's taken a lot of heat over the past month or so, 2 months. And some of it's warranted. If you're a Steelers fan, you probably are not very happy with him, and maybe you don't like what's going on with him off the field, or you don't like how he's talking about his former team or former teammates or coach or GM. But everyone's kind of forgetting he is actually a really hard worker. You don't become Antonio Brown being a 6th-round draft pick to what he is today, not being a hard worker. So he is an incredible talent. He is a hard worker. He does show up in big spots when he needs to.
By the way,
it's like we're all kind of forgetting how good he really is.
I still go back to, I think the perfect fit, in my opinion, is Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers. Because I think he would be loved. I think he would be the talk of the league. I think Aaron would be incredibly happy and feel supported, finally getting him a star. Green Bay, everybody says it doesn't fit, and I completely get it. You put him on Green Bay tomorrow, and Aaron is smart enough to say, okay, I'm not going to do what Ben did. I'm not going to call him out. I'm going to put my arms around him. Aaron would finally feel like, oh, God, we paid for a star. We went out and got somebody.
If Aaron did that, I would say it's a good fit. But I also think he will be successful with the Raiders as well. Derek Carr is a good quarterback.
Yeah, he is. That's fair.
He's also taken a lot of heat over the past year or so. He is a good quarterback. They're probably going to stick with him. And if he's with the team, which he likely will be if they're going to make all those trades when they transition to Las Vegas, he's the perfect star to build a Las Vegas reveal around.
I don't know if he's perfect, but he's a star.
That's what you need. Can't manufacture those.
Yeah. Joy with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Lie News.
Doug Gottlieb, the Duggars, show after mine on Fox Sports Radio. Let's bring him on today. Of course we bring him on today. All sorts of great stuff. So, I showed a piece of video that Kobe is the loner and the lone wolf and on an island and a bad teammate. When he passed MJ, it was really special. It was really cool. LeBron is the community guy, all for one, banana boat. Yet he breaks the record, and he's on an island, and I come back to he's never committed to L.A.
He's never committed to anybody, right? Even his hometown of Cleveland, he left twice. So this is what happened. The college basketball comparison is this. In college basketball nowadays, you don't just have transfers. Sometimes you have 2-time transfers.
Right.
And this week you have senior night, right? And so some of these guys, they've literally been on campus for 5 minutes, and they come out and they got the roses and their mom.
Nobody knows them.
Nobody knows. There's no relationship there. So that's what that was last night. But how weird, as weird as Michael Jordan's statement was, I actually thought LeBron's that Joy read was stranger, where he said, and Joy, tell me if I got this wrong because I was listening to you, where even if the relationship is not what I hoped it would be, like, I don't even know why you would offer that up, but you're just in there going like, look, we're not boys. He doesn't like me. I don't like him, but he was my idol, so I'm glad that I passed him.
Yeah.
Like, look, let's just, Colin, I want you to admit something, that we agree it's a flawed roster. I think Pelinka's inexperience has been exposed.
Yeah.
I think Magic Johnson's been exposed.
Yes.
I think Luke Walton was hired for a different team, and Pelinka and Magic never openly wrapped their arms around him and said, this is our coach. Magic didn't bring him to the meeting with LeBron James. That was a mistake. There have been a lot of mistakes made, but this thing is a disaster, and LeBron James is the biggest reason why. He got hurt. They were playing well, and he went away from the team. And when he showed back up with the team, he was late for games because he wanted his own ovation. He had his wine glass, bringing that to an NBA. Like, you can't come to a place of work drinking wine.
I had 2 NBA players text me. One plays, one doesn't on the wine thing. They said, if Tom Brady didn't play for a game, he wouldn't come with a Budweiser. Like, it's not you. When you go into that arena as a player, you are with that team on the bench. You're in the huddle. You're emotionally there. That's just not me as a media guy. 2 players texted me on the wine thing. So when you bring it up, it's a thing that guys talked about.
I've been told he was also texting while on the bench, even if trying to do it kind of slyly so. And like, look, you can't fool. A saying that I have in sports is you just can't fool players. And it's one of the reasons that I love interviewing players, because I think though they may not articulate their thoughts the way that businessmen do or public speakers do in their own sport, in what they've done their entire life, and the inner workings and inner relationships of the locker room, they're brilliant. And you can't fool these guys. It doesn't matter if they're 21 years old like Brandon Ingram or if they're 35, 36 years old like Tyson Chandler. You can't fool these guys. And if you show up and you're about winning and you're LeBron and you're going to take the Lakers back to glory, and the second you get hurt and things don't work your way, you start going off doing your own shows. By the way, there isn't another Laker who has appeared in any of his 5 shows.
I know.
Okay, his 5 different shows, different networks, never been a current Laker on any of them. Like, they're like, look, he's not with us. And then all of a sudden you hear people have pointed to the trade rumors. Like, yeah, but that's only part and parcel to all of the other issues. You go back to when there's a fight with Chris Paul to start the year, and he's grabbing Chris Paul like, no, dude, you're on our team now. So he's a terrible teammate. Whether it's, I heard your rant Monday, which was perfect, which is he's been a bad leader this year, but he's clearly been a bad leader previous to this. It's all embodied in that statement with Michael Jordan and how Laker fans feel about him and the lack of embrace of his teammates. And like, look, Brandon Ingram's got a bad shoulder. All right, your shoulder hurts. It may be really bad. You're playing for your playoff lives, and you got a chance to pass the ball to a guy who's probably going to go down as the all-time scoring leader, and you decide to not play in the game. Like, of course, these guys are like, look, he's not with us. Why do I care about him? LeBron James has poured some of the kerosene and lit the match that's exploded with the LA Lakers.
Here's what's interesting, Doug, is that, and I used, even when I didn't live in Los Angeles, if you grow up in the West Coast like we did, you're an LA kid, I'm not, but the Lakers are kind of the West Coast team. And I think people forget this. Even with Kobe, his career in Los Angeles was like 5 chapters. Mm-hmm. The young phenom who didn't play much. Mm-hmm. Shaq, Kobe titles. Shaq leaves, Kobe's pissed, they're irrelevant. Gasol arrives, back to being a dominant team, 2 titles, 3 years.
Wanted to be traded, by the way, during the time in which they were bad.
And then the end, a couple ugly years. So there were a lot of stages of Kobe.
Yeah.
So there is part of me that says, we're living in the moment here. This could all change in a year, could it not? If they're going to have space for 2 big-time players, could I make the argument, Doug, is I'm being a little reactionary. LeBron's going to hear all the criticism from all of us and go, I got to commit more. He's a pretty smart dude who watches social media.
No question, and he'll have his longest offseason ever. He'll have a chance to get his body right, probably lose some weight so that, probably play at his thinnest weight. Here's the problem with it. Have you noticed in the buyout market that the Lakers haven't gotten anybody?
To explain that to the audience?
Okay, so look, this time of year, Andrew Bogut, for example, just signed. Ennis Cantor was a buyout guy, signed with the Portland Trailblazers.
Said he didn't want to be a Laker.
Right, so now it's a moot point. They're not going to make the playoffs. There's no reason to go spend some money on a player that they don't need. Right. But over the past couple of weeks, when they still had hope, when LeBron was just coming back, they had an open roster spot. They couldn't even get Carmelo Anthony to sign with the Lakers. Now, look, I think Carmelo Anthony would have been even worse for their already depleted chemistry, but they couldn't get Carmelo Anthony to help them get over the hump and get to the playoffs. The problem with it is the league is sitting there and other agents don't want to do business with them because they think, whether it's real or whether it's a product of assumption made by the media, that Clutch Sports is running things. I don't want to go put my guy on a team run by Clutch Sports. And if you're not rep by that, why do you want to do business there? So in theory, you go, all right, we make a move, we get Anthony Davis, we sign a couple free agents, we rework the roster, we put shooters around him, and LeBron James is back in the NBA. Golden State Warriors won't be the same next year. Like that's reasonable.
Yeah.
The problem with it is What do they have to give up to get Anthony Davis? Will LeBron James be the same LeBron James a year later next year? Even with a long offseason, he's still a year older. He's not getting younger. And will they get enough players that are quality players to sign with this team? And by the way, did Pelinka and Magic Johnson have the wherewithal to sign the right players who are healthy, who can defend? And then who they hire as a coach? Like the names Ty Lue, that sounds great, but one, does Ty Lue work there? Two, does Ty Lue want the job? And even if he wants the job, if it's not Ty Lue, Jason Kidd, if it's Mark Jackson, like, these are not guys that other players and other front office people around the NBA respect because of the jobs that they've done previously. Like, I understand what you're thinking. I'm telling you, though, that the league is sitting there going, look at the buyout market. They can't get guys outside of Clutch Sports to sign with the Lakers. It's going to be a problem this offseason.
Okay, very interested on your thoughts about one football thing and also the face of the league going forward. Doug Gottlieb, stick around. Everybody knows by now of untucked shirts. I grew up as a kid, you tucked your shirt in. Then you were a massive nerd if you did that. Now you have your shirt untucked, unless you have a sports jacket, then you got to tuck. But I'm an untucked guy, rarely wear a sports jacket, so I use untuckit.com. Tall, thin, long, short, wide, doesn't matter. It's not for male models here.